Cardinals should not change their thought process regarding the trade deadline, win or lose on Sunday in Minnesota.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals Friday edition here live on Twitter Spaces and YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. I am your host, Alex Clancy. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. It's been a hell of a week of podcasts. Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings and I did our crossover yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on for YouTube. We're growing this baby out. Sunday at halftime, I will be doing my halftime show live. Bring your questions, bring your comments, all things Arizona Cardinals, Minnesota Vikings, and I'll be doing my reactionary postcast immediately following the game, hopefully after a Cardinals victory, to get them to move to 4-4 instead of falling to 3-5. So here's the thing. There's a lot swirling around the NFL trade deadline, which is looming. And it's directly correlated to the win-loss record, the win-loss for the Cardinals on Sunday. And I don't think it should be. Trade deadline's Tuesday, and I think the Cardinals should have the same exact thought process going into Sunday regarding the trade deadline as they would afterwards. And let me explain. First of all, today's episode is brought to you by SimpliSafe. With fast protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe, 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. With how things are going now, 3-5 and 4-4 in the muck box that is the NFC and the NFC West. 3-5 and 4-4, yeah, it's a game difference in the win column. But I don't think it's like, oh no, trade everybody if the Cardinals drop to 3-5. Now, how they lose on Sunday may have something to do with it. If they lose by 20 and it's just not close and they look bad and the offensive line can't hold up with the hobbled nature that they're facing right now, it may infuse a little bit of change into my thought process. But as of now, if they're going to players at the trade deadline, they should do it regardless, win or loss. If they're looking to trade AJ Green or JJ Watt, trade them. You know, like I don't think that one game in the middle of a long ass season should predicate what they should do on this during this trade deadline. Kyler Murray's rookie scale contract is pretty much done. Okay. They haven't necessarily built out proven pieces with very, very inexpensive contracts. Now, David Collins has emerged. Byron Murphy took 4 years. Okay, so he's no longer an inexpensive player after this year. He's going to want a big contract. Zach Allen, same thing. He's going to want a contract, not as much as Byron Murphy would get, but they're going to have to pay some players. So this whole, wiggle room 4 years is gone. And they haven't really built out an incredibly deep roster over the last 4 years since Kyler Murray has been drafted. So I don't think that, it's not like it's a very, very fragile situation. The Cardinals need pieces. So do you want to trade for them? Or do you want to trade away assets, get draft picks, and do it in the draft next year? I don't think one game should be this world-beating decision-making force on what the Cardinals should do on Tuesday, when the trade deadline hits. I just don't. Now, if they were 2-5 going into this game and they lose and go to 2-6, that's vastly different than the Cardinals being either 3-5 or 4-4. It just is. So if you're thinking about trading AJ Green, just trade him. Win or loss, trade him. You want to get a 7th round pick? You want to get maybe a backup linebacker? Trade him. Cool. He's not going to have that much of an impact. J.J. Watt is not going to have that much of an impact contractually after the season. Like, it's not like there's this massive move that can be made to shore up the future for the Cardinals, win or loss on Sunday. If you want to trade for Bradley Chubb, do it. If you're 3-5 and you want to get him now. At least he can get reacclimated to Vance Joseph's defense, where he had his career year sack total wise, his rookie year with Vance Joseph in Denver. Trade for him. You got to give him a first-round pick? Sure. He's a proven commodity. He's missing time, but you give him a first-round pick for him. It's like, especially if you're going to trade for somebody, trade for Bradley Chubb so you don't have to worry about, outbidding others. Just do it now. Why wait? Absolutely, why wait? Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. It's going to be a fascinating matchup on Sunday. Fascinating matchup because the Cardinals are familiar with the criticism that the Vikings are getting now. Everything just bounced their way. Last year, starting 7-0, everything bounced their way until AJ Green didn't turn around. There was a miscommunication with Kyler Murray, and then Kyler Murray got rolled up on the last play of the game against Green Bay with Rasul Douglas interception to clinch it. Those first 7 weeks, nobody believed that the Cardinals were legit. Kyler Murray was a MVP candidate for sure, but there was still a sneaking suspicion in the back of people's minds like, we'll see. Same thing with Minnesota. They're 5-1. The Cardinals can come in to the Twin Cities, get a win. This would be a huge deal for the Cardinals because, it's a 5-1 team. The team with the best record they played so far was undefeated Philly a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. And they played their best game, I think. New Orleans, but New Orleans was a bad team. They were hobbled. The Cardinals played their best game against Philadelphia. They lost, but they played their best game of the season from the beginning to the end of a game in its entirety. They played their best game. If they can go in on Sunday, and I'll talk about the keys to victory next, and I'll talk about who I think the players of the game are going to be and who inevitably will win this game in the final segment. This is a massive game for the Cardinals. And to put a bow on this segment, it in no way should affect what the Cardinals do at the trade deadline. 3-5 and 4-4 aren't so far off that you're mailing it in for the rest of the season and having a fire sale. It makes no rational sense. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Coming up next, keys to victory. There are a bunch of them. And we're going to be playing the hits, and we're going to be discussing it all next. Locked On Cardinals first. SimpliSafe. Okay? Here's a sports analogy for you. When it comes to burglars, your home is like the end zone. And SimpliSafe could be the absolute strongest defense you can muster. That's why I use and trust SimpliSafe Home Security. SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. It's cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back, so you always know your home is safe. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion, the only actual alerts that are things, not just your cat, fluffles jumping around, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl. Save 20% off your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan, and you get the first month for free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl to learn more. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. So the Vikings are multi-faced. You don't know which Minnesota Vikings team you're going to play. And it's terrifying, it's comforting, and it's everything in the middle. And that's what makes That's what makes this game on Sunday so interesting, because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake. And if the Cardinals can go in on the road, early morning slate, get a victory, it would mean more for the Cardinals this game than the Vikings, because the Vikings dropped to 5-2. They're still atop the NFC North. But if the Vikings punish the Cardinals, if they win by 2 scores or something, it would the Cardinals are right in that middle rung where I talk about this a lot. It's like when the season starts, teams will look at their schedule and go W, L, or question mark. So say it's a middling team and they see, the Bills. They probably mark that as a loss. None of these teams, this is, an exercise. And then, you look at a team in like Jacksonville, mark it as a W. And then there's a bunch of teams right in the middle where you just mark it as a question mark. And the Cardinals are a question mark. You don't know what team you're going to see on the field. You don't know what the opponent's going to do. And this is a question mark game for both sides. So if the Cardinals can get a win, it would solidify the fact that they're still playoff contenders. And that's a big deal 8 weeks into the season. And it's something, I've had a hard time this week breaking this game down. I talked with Luke. We had a good time. Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. We had a great time. All I see is, can the Cardinals protect Kyler Murray? Can the offensive line, the hobbled offensive line, protect Kyler Murray? And can Byron Murphy stop Justin Jefferson? The run defense has been fine. Dalvin Cook, they're kind of moving away from the run-first offense that we've grown to know in Minnesota. I mean, all the way back to Adrian Peterson. So can they stop Justin Jefferson? And can they protect Kyler Murray? Those are the 2 keys to victory here. And it's something that, I can't, and I'm not I'm looking at my notes for this podcast, and I'm just like, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen. But protecting Kyler Murray is paramount. Always is. It's paramount. Protecting Kyler Murray yields more time, yields DeAndre Hopkins getting more solid targets, yields maybe Robbie Anderson getting integrated into this offense a little bit. And, you want to see this offense pop, because the ideal scenario, this is the picture. So keys to victory, simple. Protect Kyler Murray, stop Justin Jefferson. Simple in theory. But I feel like those two, and then I'll piggyback on that, putting pressure on Kirk Cousins. If you can get into Kirk Cousins' kitchen, he's going to make mistakes, or he's apt to make mistakes. If he's having tea parties in the backfield, it's going to be a long day for the Cardinals. It's going to be a long day. So he'll be able to pick people apart. Irv Smith, Adam Thielen, but stop Justin Jefferson, stop the world, save the world. That's kind of what we're looking at here, because him and Jamar Chase, tip top number 1, number 2 young receivers in the NFL. And also, this is kind of and we've done this forever here on Locked On Cardinals, the key to victory, you just take Kyler Murray out of it because it's obvious that Kyler Murray needs the ball out. We haven't seen vintage Kyler Murray, if there's such thing as vintage, as a 4th-year player. It's time. It's time, because the ideal scenario here is the Cardinals win on Sunday, maybe make a move with the trade deadline, maybe can stack together a couple wins before Hollywood Browns comes back, the offense gets on track, and then you put in your wide receiver 1A with everybody else healthy, and then you're off to whatever potential races there are. This offense on paper, if James Conner comes back at full strength, this offense is scary. It's predicated upon the offensive line. It's predicated upon DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and Robbie Anderson and Rondale Moore and Zach Ertz and Trey McBride and James Conner and, Benjamin. They've got enough offensive weapons. They've just got to all be healthy at the same time, fuse it together, and giddy up. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs when the Cardinals get there. That's the ideal scenario, and it starts with a win on Sunday. It makes everything so much easier if the Cardinals win on Sunday. Still difficult, but 3-5, even though it's not enough to tip the scale to where they need to change their thought process or methodology going into the trade deadline. If you're going to trade for players, do it. If you're going to trade away players, do it. Sunday shouldn't be a determining factor unless they lose like 40-10. Unless it looks like 2 losses instead of 1. Should be status quo. Make your decision before Sunday and do it. Kyler Murray protected. Kyler Murray needs to ball out. If the Cardinals can get a victory, this is a massive game for the Cardinals. Massive. Puts them right back into the NFC West race. Keeps them jockeying for position for a playoff spot. And you beat a team that's 5-1. It's a trifecta. Alex Lindsay, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Predictions. Players of the game. I'm going to talk about both of them on this live edition of Locked On Cardinals. Oh man, I'm like I will say before I pivot here, I am a little nervous about this because it's a very fragile ecosystem the Cardinals have built for themselves. If they lose by a lot, I don't think they will, but if they lose by a lot, uncomfortable conversations may be had around the trade deadline, even though I reiterate, a win or loss on Sunday should not change the methodology going into the trade deadline. And I hope it doesn't. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. I've been to therapy a bunch over the course of my life. I'm 39, so, in and out. It's helped a lot. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in the problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. And the therapist can help you become a better problem solver, make it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp's a great option. It's convenient, it's accessible, it's affordable, it's entirely online, which gives you the flexibility you need. Like, you can switch therapists whenever you want. You can turn your camera off on Zoom if you want. You can leave it on. You can do whatever you want to make you feel comfortable. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey, and as I mentioned, switch therapists at any time. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. And I'm excited to talk about this local sponsor of ours, mysolarnerd.com. So solar is a big deal in Arizona, okay? There are companies that stop by to offer you free solar. The truth is many of these companies aren't local, and because that, they're using misleading tactics and end up overcharging homeowners. If you've considered solar, but something felt off, you're going to like today's sponsor. My Solar Nerd's mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com are local and understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. They've been doing this for a while and understand that educated customers are happy customers, and their no-pressure approach will make sure all your questions get answered. And once you're ready, they'll put their industry knowledge to work by choosing the best equipment, helping you do that, warranties, Better Business Bureau accredited installer. They help you out. They'll also help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners will get a $50 Amazon gift card when they book a no-commitment evaluation. Just remember, this promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About It section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start your research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com today and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, solar doesn't need to be difficult, and mysolarnerd.com will help you make it easy. This is going to be a fascinating game to watch on Sunday. Alex Lindsay, Locked On Cardinals. Cardinals travel to Minnesota to play the 5-1 Vikings. They're playing the hits: Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Patrick Peterson, Jordan Hicks. Little revenge game stuff there. Will the Cardinals win? Before I get to that, the players that need to ball out for the Cardinals to win: Zayvon Collins, Byron Murphy, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray, and the offensive line as a group. Hopefully they can score a touchdown in the first quarter. Things like that. It's just like, we know what needs to be done. We know what needs to be done by the Cardinals. It's week 8. Score points early. Don't get down by 10 points. Don't put the defense in bad situations where you can't sustain offensive drives early on, because Kirk will eat your lunch. If the Cardinals don't put pressure on Kirk Cousins, we saw it last year. I think he had 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter and a half, and the Cardinals ended up coming back and taking the lead at halftime in one of the wildest games we've seen, ending with Greg Joseph missing a chippy and the Cardinals walking off at home at State Farm Stadium last year. I know Minnesota's had trouble with mobile quarterbacks, which is something that LeBron talked about. Been on a couple other Vikings podcasts this week, and that's what they've talked about. The Vikings have had trouble with mobile quarterbacks. One of the things that I'm really curious to see is the utilization of Kyler Murray running the ball. Like, we've seen it where it's like super potent, and then we don't see it at all. Like the drive against Seattle, we had the 40-yard design run down the right sideline where they ended up kicking a field goal. It's like, okay, that's weird. That game script was different. And we'll see what the game script looks like here. But I wonder if they'll maximize Minnesota having trouble with mobile quarterbacks. And the other thing is, and I talked about this throughout the week, everybody on the planet knows that Minnesota is going to try and double. And I know they play base zone, but they'll try and double DeAndre Hopkins in any way possible. So if the offense is to throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins and not have a backup plan, that's going to be on Cliff Kingsbury. You'd think that a game plan will be built surrounding Robbie Anderson now being 2 weeks with the team, Rondale Moore emerging as a fringe wide receiver too, Zach Ertz getting back into the mix in the middle, and then running the ball effectively. You'd hope that that's going to be part of the game plan. Because if it's not, we're going to have some very uncomfortable conversations after the Cardinals lose on Sunday. Will the Cardinals win on Sunday? I think it's going to be close. I think the over-under is 49. I will say this. If it's a shootout, the Cardinals will win. If the total points is over 49, the Cardinals will win. If it's an ugly game, the Cardinals will lose. Minnesota is very good at winning ugly. We've seen it this year already. And I don't know which is going to be. This is such a question mark. And, like, who the hell knows what's going to happen? We don't know what my Minnesota Vikings team is going to show up. We don't know what Arizona Cardinals team is going to show up. But I will tell you, it is going to give us a little introspection into both teams on Sunday to see what their true colors are. And we'll see come Sunday afternoon if the Arizona Cardinals will move to 4-4 or slip to 3-5 and have some very uncomfortable conversations leading up to the trade deadline. Even though, as I put a button on this Friday Live podcast, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals front office should make decisions about the trade deadline solely based on if the Cardinals win or lose on Sunday. It's about the long game, not just the last 9 games of this season. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will talk to you at halftime on Twitter Spaces and on YouTube, and then immediately following just on YouTube to give the reaction podcast. Alex Clancy, Locked On